Hey, I'm TJ Schwanke, and welcome to the Outdoor Quest TV Zoomcast. And with us today is Rob Brown from Timber King Outfitting. And Rob, we were together in a whole different world just a few months ago, weren't we?
Yeah, sure thing. Things have sure changed since we last seen each other, that's for sure.
Yeah, Rob was my outfitter down in Mexico on my desert sheep hunt, and that was actually the first time I'd had a chance to meet Rob. And we all kind of left there thinking, yeah, there's some kind of virus going around the world. And then 2 weeks later, it was basically shut down. But um, you're a pretty young guy, and I think a lot of younger guys looking at getting into outfitting are always looking for tips and tricks on it, and other than hard work, which is the obvious one. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in your career as an outfitter.
For sure. So I'm 31 now, and I started when I was 15. So I got introduced to it at a very young age, through family and so forth. And happens a lot, with the guys that are experienced and been in the industry a while. You get introduced at a young age and fall in love with it, and you pursue it to its fullest extent. So that's, at the start, that's where I started in a fishing camp, and it moved into hunting very quickly. I knew that was the road I was going to take, and just sort of planned around that. Didn't really hold myself back, and never setting the limits. Just went where the work was and chased it bigger and better and bigger and better till we're here.
So you started out guiding like most everyone does. And when did you actually start into the outfitting yourself?
Outfitting, I started 5 years ago myself, and we started with wolf hunts and built it from there. And now we offer, multiple species hunts across, the world. Actually, I mean, we outfit in Russia, we outfit down in Mexico, and all over Canada, as you know. So
Yeah, so you've got outfits in British Columbia and Alberta as well.
Alberta, yeah, we outfit in Smithers, BC. We do the moose, goat, black bear. We do a little bit of wolf and lynx hunting in the winter there. We do some wolf and lynx or wolf hunts in Alberta, and we also do a bunch of whitetail, mule deer, and moose there. And then, as you know, the desert sheep and the coos deer and mule deer down south.
All too well, I know that. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So a young guy coming up, he's guided for a little while and kind of looking to break into the outfitting business. Any words of advice?
Yeah, just stay at it. You're gonna witness all kinds of times of uncertainty. Right now, we're experiencing probably one of the biggest uncertain times for our industry. But if you can get through this, you've got all kinds of room for improvement ahead of you. I mean, just stick with it. You're going to go through, a list of things. Where you start as, you usually as a wrangler or a packer, and it's very limited wages, just enough to get by, maybe make some payments on some bills and have a little bit of fun after the season's over. But you got to stay with it and manage it well. That's one key attribute to guys that make it. And make it, a decent living at this, is that you've got to manage your time, you got to manage your money correctly, and just stay with it, stay current.
Well, I think kind of like the television business, everybody looks at the glamour side of it all, but it's real work, and you do have to treat it like a real business.
Absolutely. No, for the guys that are young, there's a big curve right now that's trending. The guys at the shows are getting older and older, and those shows are sort of starting to dissipate. Young guys like myself, if we're looking for a hunt, we're looking online. So a big plus for your business right now is to stay current online, for sure. And stay current with the trending markets. I mean, you need to be on top of what people are searching on the internet, and don't give your product away.
I just had Richard Mellon on from Trapping Inc. the other day, and we talked exactly that for the television business, and it's true for any business. And I think we talked about the other day, the price you set today is the price you set for life. So if you tell people you're not worth anything today, you won't be worth anything tomorrow. So where did you start? So you started with the wolf hunts in BC?
In Alberta.
Oh, in Alberta.
I started in Alberta with the wolf hunts. We did some hunts in and around the Peace River region. Then we gradually moved in to the whitetail and mule deer in that area. I had worked for a previous outfitter for a number of years, and then he had passed away, which led me to, stick it out in the same area. I'd spent 8 years of my life there, so I had a lot of time invested, and it was foolish to try and outsource for any other work. So we picked up some allocations, and we gradually got into it. And as this time of year right now, and right now as the age of outfitters are starting to increase, I mean, there's lots of opportunity for young guys to get into it. So there's lots of guys looking to get out and take their investment and get a return on it, sell the allocation, sell their territories. And there's huge opportunity right now. So we've been fortunate enough to jump into it in a really good time. And we've got some good permits, and you just keep pushing. If there's
Probably,
opportunity, you take it.
yeah, there'll probably be some more opportunity after this
You
pandemic is over.
you best believe. And that's not the opportunity we want to see in the industry, unfortunately. Being forced out for financial reasons, and this is something we're all getting to witness for the first time. It's going to take a hard hit on our industry, that's for sure. It already has. So
Yeah, and certainly the southern hemisphere, like they've seen most of their prime hunting season lost already. We've seen the spring seasons lost here, and there's a lot of uncertainty around the fall seasons.
Oh, that's right. Well, we're not getting any sort of certainty from the government as far as projections. The local communities and stores can open back up with their guidelines set in place, but they really haven't hinted that we're going to catch a break here. And it's as it progresses, the guys in the Northwest Territories are getting hit next. And July 15th, their Dall sheep season opens, and then that progresses into August 1st, and the Yukon's going to start feeling the repercussions. I know outfitters personally that have already rolled everything back. Guys that are booked for next year can't roll this year's guys into next year, because that's most of these outfits are allocated a number of tags, and if they aren't, they can't just mismanage their area to make up for lost revenues 3 years prior. So they're rolling 3 years, all 1 year back. So it's a big hit.
Yeah. Are you getting any word from the government at all on kind of where things might be headed? What's could happen with your tags or anything like that?
Nothing. So they've hinted to us that they might give us a break on our renewals in Alberta, which is a couple $100 per tag, depending on the tag. Which that's a start, but that was hinted to us a long time ago, and we don't have any conclusions on that whatsoever. So we haven't gotten a whole lot of consistency out of them. No answers whatsoever. The border keeps getting pushed back, so it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot of people. Anyone that's new in the industry and just jumped into it, if they've got any type of financing on allocations, this stuff ain't cheap, right? So,
well, and that is the truth. Like you look at some of these sheep areas, $4, $5, $6 million, like just making your payments for a year is.
Oh yeah, it's bad enough you're living off Kraft dinner for 10 years when things are good, and now it's going to hurt. It's going to feel, there's ripples that are just going to be felt throughout the industry. It's very important.
Well, so, hopefully we get some changes or at least some direction here shortly for that. I mean, biggest part of business, I think, is planning. And when you can't plan,
nothing. They turn the lights off and leave you in the dark. That's where you're at.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit of good news, though. Your desert sheep area in Mexico is phenomenal. And I was kind of one of those guys who was super skeptical about Mexico. And there's a lot of shady stuff goes on down there. There's a lot of hunts sold on really not what they are. And at one point I said I would never hunt Mexico. And then our good friend, Jeff Eno, hunted with you. And the more I talked to Jeff, the more I just sounded like you were a real fit for the hunt I was looking for. And tell us a little bit about that area. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, so our area that in Mexico, everybody flies into Hermosillo, as you know, and we're right out on the edge of the Sea of Cortez, just basically 3 miles from the ocean. You can see it from camp. It's a beautiful area, and it's a ranch that I started working with a number of years ago. I worked for an outfitter that had the ranch prior, and then we built a relationship, and now we're on the ranch and managing it quite heavily. So we've seen some pretty good returns over the last 4 years, and we've watched our sheep get bigger, older, and more of them. This year with your hunt, it was one of our second to last hunt, and even the hunt after you, I mean, we were seeing 20, 30 rams and great maturity, lots of stock for next year, and some great opportunities at some big rams for next year too. So we're pretty proud of it, and we've put a lot of sweat equity into it. So
and kind of a good news story there too. You're working with the local Siri people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, they're very good people, and it's like anything. You hear about Mexico, you hear about all these places, and you can hear all kinds of bad things about people getting ripped off and so forth. And it's unfortunate that a guy like yourself says, I'm never going to hunt Mexico. But these people are great. They're great to work with. They're great to do business with. They're honest people that are hardworking. And we've done very well with them. We've kept it very transparent for everyone. And it's a wonderful, wonderful relationship, that's for sure.
Well, I know for me as a sheep hunter, the big things were I wanted to shoot a mature ram. I wanted it to be 100% free range, not fences on 3 sides of it or 2 sides of it. And I just wanted to have a good hunt. And I think the really cool thing, you showed up in Hermosillo a day before we did. You hadn't been on the ranch. None of your guides had been on the ranch for a week or so at that point. So we kind of all walked into this not having a clue what was there. which
Yeah, I think
is awesome.
that's something that's being, taken from the industry as more money gets involved. We see the opportunity to just go out and hunt disappearing, guys wanting pre-scouting and all kinds of different packages. Not that that's a bad thing. I mean, it is a business at the end of the day, but we do like the true style of hunting and being able to watch you look at that ram for the first time and hear everything that we've, think about it and walk you through everything start to finish. It's nice to have that client there for part of that entire process, which we've seen it start to leave the industry, and we want to keep it there. So
yeah, and it was truly amazing. And to me, that was the biggest thing was, I wanted that quality of a hunt. I mean, I think when you look at it, everybody says, oh, desert sheep are so expensive. But when you look at the prices, I mean, they're not really any more expensive than.
No, you watch the thin horns here in Canada go up quite a ways up. You watch the bighorns go up. I think a Cali's worth 85 in some places in BC, but they're high success rates. You've got bighorns in Alberta that are going for $45,000 and $55,000. And it's just as good a hunt down there, if not better. And you're in the sun drinking a beer. I mean, how can you argue with that?
Well, and that was the cool thing. I mean, the day we showed up there, we got in kind of late in the afternoon and pulled up on the patio beside the kitchen and put up the spotting scopes and pulled out a cerveza, and we were looking at sheep right away. I think that's the cool thing. And, it's no secret that a lot of the sheep hunts in North America, the odds are starting to drop on them. Some of our sheep hunts are 50%, maybe less. And it's one of the great things about going to Mexico is, I mean, your chance of getting a ram are pretty darn good. And not because the hunts are set up or anything. It's just there's so many sheep.
No, there's so many sheep, and if it's well managed, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a shot opportunity. What you do with that shot is entirely up to you, but there's really good odds of getting that shot at a quality animal in Mexico. That's why we like hunting there.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of funny. Like that was kind of the one sheep at one time that was just out of imagination for most sheep hunters, and now it's kind of the one. I mean, certainly Dall sheep are still cheaper, but when you start comparing it to stones and bighorns, I mean, it's pretty good.
I think personally, the stones are going to surpass the deserts at some point because the odds are going down. The territories are getting smaller in quotas, and it's something that is naturally going to go up.
Yeah, and those areas are
going to be worth more.
Yeah, they're getting so expensive for those areas too. So, but it is a neat. I mean, just the way you guys manage it down there, you are managing for quality. Like you say, you've cut the numbers way back on the amount of sheep you're harvesting. You've got that age up. But kind of, I guess one of the interesting things when I was down there, you were saying those sheep don't live as old as a lot of our other North American sheep.
No, they live a tough life. So if you imagine, our sheep having to live through 120 and 130 degrees in the summer with really nothing for natural water. They get some humidity changes and they get some rain, but it's not always there. So there's no guarantees for those sheep. So you think about that and it's pretty, there's a good reason why they're not aging up. That's for sure. You don't see 12 or 13-year-old rams very often down there. I know they've killed some pretty old ones on the island before. And I've heard of them. I've never witnessed any of them though. At the same time, our oldest ram that we killed there is 10 years old, and that was old. Most of them are between 7 and 9.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just a good thing to keep in mind when you go, like those are the big mature rams. And I guess you got to kind of adjust your harvest to, you want to take those rams out as they reach that maturity.
Absolutely. It's hard, not knowing in the beginning whether that 7-year-old's going to turn into a 10-year-old, but it's even harder seeing them dead in the bottom of the creek the next season,
Yeah. So one of the cool things there, like where we're hunting, you say we're right on the Sea of Cortez, but you can look at Tiburon Island just a few miles out across the Sea of Cortez. And you were saying the sheep from the Seri land there were the ones that were actually used to stock Tiburon originally.
Yeah, absolutely. They just dispersed most of the rams that are on Tiburon, or all the rams came from at one point on the mainland. So they stocked that and they've done a wonderful job on the island. They've got some good populations and great sheep. So.
Oh, it's amazing. But it's to have those genetics there, and your sheep are so big. Like I've seen so many desert sheep; they're so small bodied and everything else. And yours aren't much smaller than a bighorn when you start looking at it. They're big bodied rams.
They've got big bodies for sure. Skinny little necks. It's a wonder how they hold their horns up. But that's it's definitely a good place. Great genetics, and with a little bit of love and care to them, they're going to turn into something pretty special. You've already seen it. So
yeah. You've got some pretty amazing things going on in here in Alberta too with your deer, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've tried to put every type of management aspect across the board with everything we do. Reduce the amount of hunters, give the guys a little bit more of a premium service, charge a little bit more, but give them a heck of a lot more. And it's been working wonderfully. We've killed some really good whitetail in the last few years and some spectacular mule deer. Of course, that changes with the winters and the springs. You guys are getting lots of rain this year, so we're probably going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, we should. Yeah. So, but I mean, that kind of goes back to originally charge for your service. And I mean, your hunts are more expensive than a lot of guys. I mean, there's no arguing that. And I guess, how do you justify that as an outfitter?
It's one thing I guess when you're young, you work for a lot of different people. You get to see a lot of different ways that you've done it. You take qualities from all kinds of different people and try and leave things that you don't think fit into your style of business, and you move forward in the direction you see fit. I've seen a need for guys wanting to come to a camp that's a little bit smaller, get treated a little bit more personalized service, give them trail cameras, update them. A lot of money goes back into scouting. That's the number one reason we're prepared for our hunts. With the whitetail and deer, I mean, we scout in the summer, we get everything ready, because as you know, you could have a million pictures of a deer and come the rut, they're 10 miles away and gone. Some other outfitter shooting them. So that happens, but we prepare for them, and we just make sure that when they pull up, everything's taken care of and they just get to hunt and enjoy themselves. So I've seen that need, and I've worked in camps where there's 15 to 20 guys. The cost is less. They don't have as personable of service. It's a variant of guides, structures. It's just tougher to manage, but at a better price. So that's for some people. I'm just trying to cater to the guys that want a little bit more of an individual and personalized service.
Yeah, I think every outfitter has to find their niche, don't they? You can't be everything to everyone, and you need to find that niche.
Yeah, absolutely. No.
And I would say you found it pretty well. And, I think you put a lot of pride too in like true free range hunts. Guys hunt hard with you.
Yeah, it's something that resonates within me. It's what I would do. That's how I would do it and want to do it if I was a hunter. It's not for everyone, and certainly there's some serious benefits for high fence and all kinds of rooms for money being injected into the hunting industry, and we need every single penny we can get being put into this industry and going back to conservation. So there's positives from all aspects, but I like free range and I like chasing things without fences.
Yeah, and definitely not to criticize at all. It's just, like I say, finding your niche. And I think it's just, we see it in the television industry too. Like some TV shows try to be everything to everyone and just end up failing because you can't. And same with you as an outfitter. I mean, you're going to lose some clients because you're more expensive, because you do things differently, but you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, you know what? And we've had guys come into our camp that were a little on the fence as to whether they wanted to spend that extra money because they've hunted. They're very, avid hunters, and they're $2,000 over someone else on a whitetail hunt, and they've been doing it for 15 years hunting in Canada. So it's nice to see when a guy does commit to spending the extra cash, comes and gets to see the service and recognizes it at the end and says, you know what, I'd pay this every time for what you gave me. So it's nice to see it, when we can reap the benefits and the rewards from our hard work, then we're happy.
Yeah. So what's the future for outfitting in North America? What do you think?
Well, first is getting past COVID. That's number one. I know if there's any guys that are watching this that are outfitters, I mean, I feel you. This is tough, and we're going to get through it for sure. But getting through this is number one, and then just making sure that it stays. We're watching allocations disappear, and we're watching a trend where we're getting cut back and all kinds of cutbacks, and we just need to make sure that the industry does stay. We got to fight for it, that's for sure, because no one else is going to fight for us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of where that unity among hunters is so important. And I know a lot of times it's pretty easy to, have residents against outfitters and everything else. But at the end of the day, like, we're all in this same fight together.
For sure. The, residents and outfitters, there's always been a long history of battles. And I don't ever want to fight with residents. They're hunters first and foremost, and they have the right over anyone to be in that province and hunt. I'm a resident too, so I get it. But at the same time, I've been given a right to run a business. I bought legal allocations that allow me to do it within the law. And if you got a problem with it, take it up with your local constituents and see if you can get it changed. Get them to buy me out. But at the end of the day, I'm here and you're there. So we might as well get along, because we're only benefiting each other to have some of the same. We can have our differences, but at the same time, if we want this industry to survive, if we want hunting to survive as a whole, the more people, the better.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, we all want to see better game populations, better hunting opportunities, and if we all work together, I mean, that unified voice is definitely a lot stronger than two groups trying to do it apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what do you think? Like anti-hunters, things like that, are they starting to play a role?
They are starting to play a role. You see it more so at these bigger shows. Look at any time a management rhino needs to get auctioned off. It's almost $1 million getting injected into the economy over there, and they're making some beneficial moves for their populations. Then it gets shut down. Nothing science-based. Look at our grizzly population in BC. Why? Why'd they shut it down? We're still waiting for answers on that. Oh. And here's it. The population goes up. People think that it's great, and it's going to change. I mean, it's not good for our moose populations. All of our ungulates suffer from this as grizzlies go up. I mean, you can't have an abundance of predators and expect everyone buying a license to go out there and shoot a moose or a deer or an elk and not control the predators. I mean, it's set up to fail.
Yeah. And so I know your Outfitters Association in British Columbia has been doing some heavy lobbying on that. Here in Alberta, we're fighting hard to get our grizzly season back too, for a lot of reasons. And how's that going out in BC?
Well, we're still waiting. There's some lawsuits in place that they've pursued with the deal in BC here, and we're all just waiting, hoping that something gets changed here. If we raise our voices and fight it hard enough, I think we'll get it back. I do think it's changeable, and I think if we put enough pressure on people, that's the biggest thing. You got to make your voices heard. You can't just throw your hands up and say, well, that was it. We're going to be able to tell our grandkids and everyone else that way back in the day we got to hunt grizzlies, and now that's all we got left.
Yeah, for sure. So what's in the future for Rob Brown?
Well, I'm not sure right now. We're just going to get through this COVID, make sure that we are on top of our local MPs, try and get this border open, make our voices be heard, and help wherever possible. I know the guys in the NWT are getting hit really hard right now, and once that opens back up, we're back in operation, full throttle, business as usual. So,
yeah. Any other exciting opportunities down the road you're looking at, or that you can share with us?
There's all kinds of opportunities down the road, and we are in the market for some bigger stuff that hopefully you'll get to see here in the near future. But for the time being, right now, I can't say much.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, it's good. I want to thank you for talking. I mean, it's some tough times right now, and
very tough. Yeah, it's challenging, but we'll get through it, and we just got to keep fighting for it. That's for sure.
Well, I think that's a good thing about having young guys like you in the industry is I think you have to see a future because you have. I mean, old guys outfitting, it's pretty easy to just give up right now because they've done it for a long time, but you've got a bright future ahead of you and you need to make this work.
Yeah, you have to make it work. And what we're seeing going on today without answers is unacceptable. We still need some direction. You can't just leave us in the dark, tell us that we can't do anything and just expect us to sit and wait. It's not viable. It's not a viable business plan. So for the young guys out there that are outfitting, I mean, I know they didn't teach it to you in school, but write letters, pressure your MPs. If you think they made the right decisions, then congratulate them and say, keep up the good work. But if they're making the wrong decisions or your business is in trouble, I mean, write letters, make the difference. You got to raise your voice. You got to be heard. You can't sit on social media and complain about it and not do anything. You got to get out there and put in the work, and we'll get it turned around.
Yeah. And that's great advice. I mean, there's a lot of vitriol on social media right now aimed at the government over the gun grab and over
much fighting amongst each other. It's not going to get us anywhere fighting. We gotta join hands and beat this. I mean, you can't let the cure be worse than the disease. That's for sure. And it's going to hit a tipping point here soon.
Yeah, if we're not already falling over that tipping point. But well, I want to thank you so much for joining us here and I guess sharing a little bit of your insight on the outfitting industry from being on the inside of it. I mean, I think sometimes looking from the outside in, it all looks pretty rosy, but it's a business, the hard business, and harder than ever right now.
Yeah, it's a tough business to make sure that you're doing well at it, making a decent living, that's for sure. But it's a passion-driven business, and sometimes you don't make the best decisions business-wise if you're too in love with it. So right now, more than ever, everybody has to make the best decision for their business and keep it up and make sure you're here at the end of this. So
sounds good. Well, thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you soon.
You bet. Stay in touch, to you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.